The scent of rain lingered in the air as Kenechukwu returned home from work, his thoughts swirling like the storm clouds outside. The apartment was dimly lit, with the usual clutter of unwashed plates on the table and scattered clothes in the corner. It had become a familiar sight, one that filled him with a mix of frustration and resignation. He sighed deeply, losing his tie as his eyes fell on Ifunanya, his wife of 2 years, curled up on the couch, engrossed in her phone. Ify, he called softly, but there was no response. Ifunanya, he tried again, this time louder. She barely glanced up, her face devoid of the spark that had once captivated him. Her hair, once her crown of pride, was hastily tied in a loose scarf. She wore an oversized t-shirt with a stain from last night's dinner. It was a far cry from the elegant, vibrant woman he had married. A woman who had once turned heads everywhere they went. Kenechukwu cleared his throat. I was thinking we could have a dinner together tonight. Maybe talk. Catch up. Ifunanya waved off without looking. I'm not hungry. You can eat if you want. He stared at her, his chest tightened. It wasn't just her appearance, it was everything. The effort, the care, the intimacy. They were all gone. And no matter how many times he tried to address it, she seemed either indifferent or defensive. Yet, despite it all, he tried. Kenechukwu began cleaning up the apartment, washing the dishes and folding the laundry, hoping that perhaps these actions will inspire her to do the same. He even suggested they go out more, subtle, hinting at her to dress up like she used to, but nothing changed. And then Adaobi arrived. The mother-in-law's visit was unplanned, but welcomed. Or so Kenechukwu had thought. Adaobi was a widow in her early 50s, but her age only seemed to enhance her elegance. She was light skinned with a complexion that glowed as if time had been her ally. She carried herself with grace, her clothes impeccable tailored, her hair always styled to perfection. When she stepped into their modest apartment, it was as though a breath of fresh air had entered with her. Good evening, Mama, Kenechukwu greeted, genuinely smiling for the first time in days. Kenechukwu, my son, Adaobi replied warmly, her voice carrying a melodic click. I hope I am not intruding. I thought I would surprise you too and spend some time with my daughter and son-in-law. As she embraced Ifunanya, Kenechukwu couldn't but notice the stark contrast between the two women. Where Adaobi was vibrant and alive, Ifunanya seemed dull and uninterested. The comparison gnawed at him, though he quickly shook the thought away, ashamed of himself. At this point in the story, the tension is much. Kenechukwu frustration with his wife and his growing admiration for his mother-in-law set the stage for a tale of temptation, betrayal, and redemption. But what will happen next? Will Kenechukwu succumb to his feeling for Adaobi, risking everything he holds there? Or will he find a way to reignite the spark with Ifunanya? And how will Adaobi handle the growing tension between them? To all our returning subscribers, thank you for your unwavering support. You are the reason we can continue sharing these intricate tales. If you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join this journey. Be part of our growth. And let's keep weaving story that leaves you on the edge of your seat. Now, back to the story. Over the days, Adaobi's presence began to change the atmosphere in the house. She cooked elaborate meals, arranged the clutter, and even brought fresh flowers to brighten the living room. Kenechukwu found himself looking forward to her conversations, her wit, her insight, and her effortless ability to make him feel seen and appreciated. Ify, you're lucky to have such a wonderful husband, Adaobi said one evening as they sat at the dining table. He works hard, helping around the house, and still tries to make time for you. Ifunanya shrugged, picking at her food. Is alright. Kenechukwu jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Instead, he glanced at Adaobi, who gave him a small, apologetic smile. That smile lingered in his mind long after dinner. And then, the boundaries began to blur. One night, as Kenechukwu worked late on his laptop, Adaobi entered the living room in a flowing Ankara gown. Her hair was tied back, revealing a sharp cheekbone and warm brown eyes. "You're working too hard, Kene," she said softly, placing a cup of tea beside him. He looked up, his heart skipping a beat. "Thank you, Mama." She sat beside him, close enough that he could smell her jasmine perfume. They talked for hours, sharing stories about life, dreams, and regrets. When their hands brushes accidentally, neither pulled away immediately. What started as innocent admiration quickly spiraled into something else. Keneshiko found himself seeking Adaobi's company more than his wife's. He stopped trying to correct Ifunanya, no longer urging her to change or improve. His heart and mind were consumed by the thought of Adaobi, his mother-in-law. But what would happen if Ifunanya discovered the truth? And how would Adaobi, a woman of principle, navigate the dangerous water of her son-in-law's affection? Stay tuned as the story unfolds into a dramatic, suspense-filled tale that will leave you questioning the limits of love, loyalty, and redemption. The tension in the household grew thicker with each passing day. Ifunanya remained oblivious to the subtle shift in Kenechiko's affection, though she couldn't help but notice how animated he became around her mother. Adaobi, on the other hand, was acutely aware of Kenechiko's growing admiration. She told herself it was harmless, just a harmless infatuation. But as the days went by, the line between propriety and temptation began to blur. One evening, after Ifunanya had gone to bed early, Kenechukwu found himself alone with Adaobi in the living room. She was folding some clothes she had ironed earlier, her slim fingers moving deftly as she hummed an old Igbo hymn. "You are amazing, Mama," Kenechukwu said suddenly, breaking the silence. Adaobi looked up, startled by the intensity of his voice. "Thank you, my son. But why do you say that?" He hesitated, choosing his word carefully. "You've been here barely 2 weeks, and the house feels different, livelier, warmer. I don't know how to explain it." Adaobi smiled, her eyes kind but cautious. "It's my duty as a mother to bring peace and love wherever I go." Kenechukwu stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "It's more than that. You you make me feel alive." A smile faltered, and she placed the folded shirt on the table. "Kenechukwu, that's enough." But he didn't stop. "Mama, I know this is wrong, but I can't help it. You are everything Ifunanya used to be. everything I thought I was marrying. I have tried to fix things with her, but it's like she stopped caring. And now it trailed off, his voice trembling. Adaobi stood, her expression a mix of shock and anger. Stop this nonsense right now, Kenechiku. You are married to my daughter. This is unacceptable. I know, he whispered, his voice heavy with guilt. But I can't stop thinking about you. Before she could respond, the door to the bedroom cracked open. Both of them froze as if Unaya appeared, her eyes squinting groggily. What's going on here? She asked, her voice thick with sleep. Nothing, Adaobi said quickly, grabbing the folded clothes and walking past her daughter. I was just finishing up some chores. Go back to bed. Ifunanya yawned and returned to the bedroom, oblivious of the storm brewing behind closed doors. Kenechukwu knew he should stop, but the forbidding nature of his feeling only seemed to intensify them. He began finding excuses to be around Adobe, helping her carry groceries, joining her on walks, even lingering in the kitchen while she cooked. Adobe tried to maintain her distance, but her resolve weakened each time Kenechukwu's charm slipped through her defenses. The moment that changed everything came on a rainy evening. The power had gone out, and Ifunanya had gone to visit a friend nearby. Adaobi and Kenechukwu sat together in the dimly lit living room, the sound of raindrops filling the silence. I wish things were different, Kenechukwu murmured, staring at her through the flickering candlelight. Adaobi breathed each as she looked away. Kene, don't please. But he didn't listen. He leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. You are the only one who make me feel sane, Mama. Before she could protest, he brushed a soft kiss against her cheek. Adaobi froze, her heart pounding as her mind screamed for her to stop this madness. But for a brief moment, she didn't move. When she finally pulled away, her voice was firm, but her eyes betrayed her inner turmoil. This ends now, Kenechiko. Ifunanya is your wife. You need to fix your marriage, not destroy it further. Ifunanya began to notice subtle changes in her husband. He no longer complained about her lack of effort, nor did he make any more suggestions to help her improve. Instead, he seemed distant, distracted, and oddly preoccupied whenever her mother was around. One evening, while tidying up the living room, Ifunanya found a note tucked beneath the couch cushions. It was written in Kenechiko's handwriting. You make me feel alive again. Hmm. Her hands trembled as she stared at the word. Who was this meant for? A colleague? A friend? Or a mother? The thought made her stomach churn. She decided to confront Kenechukwu that night. Kene, what's going on with you? She asked as he prepared for bed. Nothing, he replied quickly, avoiding her gaze. She held up the note, then explained this. His face paled, and for a moment, she thought he might deny it. But instead, he sighed heavily and sat on the edge of the bed. Ify, I don't know how to say this, but I've been struggling with us, with everything, and in my frustration, I started looking for comfort in the wrong place. Her heart sank. What are you saying, Kenechiko? I haven't been unfaithful, he said quickly, but I have let my emotion get the better of me. I've been leaning on your mother more than I should. Ifunanya's face crumpled as tears streamed down her cheek. My mother? The confrontation that followed was explosive. Ifunanya demanded that Adaobi leave the house immediately, accusing her mother of betraying her trust. Adaobi tried to explain, but the damage was done. The following morning, Adaobi packed her bags and left without saying goodbye. Kenechukwu, overwhelmed with guilt, spent days trying to apologize to Ifunanya, but she'd remained distant, her pain too raw to forgive him yet. Over time, however, Ifunanya began to reflect on her own shortcomings. She realized that she had stopped putting effort into her marriage, taking Kenechukwu's love for granted. One afternoon, she stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. For the first time in months, she took the time to style her hair and apply makeup. She put on a dress, hugged a plus size figure, and smiled at herself, feeling a flicker of the woman she used to be. When Kenechukwu came home that evening, he was stunned to see Ifunanya waiting for him at the dining table, the room lit with candles and adorned with flowers. "I want to try again," she said softly, her eyes glistening with tears. Kenechukwu dropped his bag and walked over to her, pulled her into a tight embrace. "I am so sorry, Ify, for everything." They spent the evening talking, laughing and reminiscing about the love that had brought them together. Slowly but surely, they began to rebuild their marriage, this time with mutual effort and understanding. As for Adaobi, she chose to distance himself from her daughter and son-in-law, knowing that her presence would only complicate things further. She moved to a different city, immersing herself in community work and finding peace in solitude. In the end, the ordeal became a lesson for everyone involved. For Ifunanya, it was a wake-up call to never take her husband's love for granted. For Kenechukwu, it was a reminder that love requires patience, effort, and commitment. And for Adaobi, it was a painful but necessary step towards healing and closure.
Thank you for watching today's episode. If you enjoy this tale and want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Let's keep the spirit of storytelling alive together. Until next time, keep the stories close to your heart.